Peace, family. Peace.
Peace and power, family. It's good to be back. It's been a minute. At least it feels like it. I hope everyone is doing well and thank you for tuning in. We've been gone for a minute. We kind of been burning the candle at both ends, y'all, for the past 2 or 3 weeks. So we really don't know what day it is. But again, we're glad to be back in our study group. We hope you all had a chance to read the section Ritual Ceremony and Us in the meantime. But in between time, let's do check-ins.
So, I guess we could give people a second to tap in real quick. Let me share it. I could find it. But overall, I check in real quick. My week has been going well. Like Z said, we've been very, very busy trying to find time to do everything. Uh, but all is well. All is well. My spirit is well. I think all is good. I had a good week, just busy. I think the rest of the week is going to be just as busy. Uh, I think we've been trying to make time to actually practice what we're studying, right? So I have been inspired to take steps to start, daily ritual and things like that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yes. How was your birthday?
Oh yeah, it was my birthday week. Woo. No, it was good. We went out a couple times. Everything was good. We did some ritualistic things for my birthday. Uh, so yeah, it was good. It was good. Had fun. So thanks to all the people who supported in one way or another. Facebook posts, coming out to party with me, just sending me love, positive vibes, all that. So we definitely appreciate our people. Thank you.
Yes. So, yes, last week was Bomani's birthday. It was great. We had a good week all week, even at school. Shout out to Uncle Ansky, Brother Alfonso, Sister Malachite at the Crescent Cultural Community Center here in Birmingham, who have been feeding the Watoto breakfast on Mondays and Wednesdays, and not just feeding the children, but feeding the community. So we definitely appreciate that. It makes our job a little bit easier. Um, the library space has been well for our learning, so the children are doing good with that. The librarians have been definitely getting more and more active with what we have going on, and just more projects and things like that, and more resources are pouring in for us. So we're definitely glad about that part. And again, like Bomani said, we have been prior to reading this book, but not too long before. We have been doing rituals. We have our altars, that we go to in the rising or all throughout the day. And just different things that we do. But this book, again, just like African spirituality and all that, all of it is interconnected. So this is kind of just giving us affirmations and giving us guidance as well as to what to do and what not to do and the meaning behind it. So yes, I'm excited to get back into the book, and our week has been
So again, this week, the section that we read was ritual ceremony and us, and brother Malidoma Patrice Somé, like his father called him, brother
awesome.
Malidoma. Uh, he gets he starts to talk about the rituals that he had to experience, right, and why. And I think in this section they talked about how he was called home and he ended up back to the village. He ended up back home, and it was prophesied, or the elders in the village foreseen that he needed to come home, or some devastating things would happen. The
Right,
dog
you're
back there,
right.
so,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
some devastating things would
Yeah,
happen to him.
yeah.
So he ended up back in the village. He ended up being able to do some ritual, some sacrifices, and able to clear his spirit. And
Yeah.
I'm laughing because the dog is making funny noises
He
back
is
there.
so
So,
silly.
uh,
But anywho, prior to, I don't know if we wanted to get deep into this, but prior to why he had to do the ritual was because there was an old lady who died in the village, but or in the city, and they didn't have the resources to take her back to the village. So him and a few other people were tasked with digging the actual grave, probably that evening until midnight. So right before it was supposed to be, right before they were finished digging, he kind of snuck off into the grass and took a nap because he was tired. And when he woke up, everybody was gone, but he saw it was a bunch of lights, and at the lights he saw ghosts, but they were dressed in ceremonial robes, like he said. And not only that, they were each sitting on a grave site. So when he got up, and of course he said he was, afraid. When he got up, they all stood up one by one and kind of like he said, put their undivided attention on him. And he, as he's trying to run away, um, he said it was the heaviest he's ever felt. Like every step he took was like he said, a ton. It felt like his body was metal. He couldn't. It was just like he was just being pulled back. And it's actually quite funny the way he described the story. But like he said, the lights were leading to darkness, but the darkness was the way out, which was interesting. I love that analogy because he said he was never so happy to see darkness. He like jumped into it literally. But I think personally, um, he had to do well. Let's say after that, he got very ill. When he went home, he was having hallucinations about what he saw and what happened to him. And every time he closed his eyes, he just could only think about those ghostly figures that were looking at him. And he became ill. And his friend that was there digging the grave with them, he was like, we didn't even notice that you weren't there because we finished at about midnight. Everybody kind of left right after that, and we just didn't notice you weren't in the crowd. But his friend did say, you got to go home. That was just the number one thing. You got to go back home to your village to understand why this happened to you. Number one, and then like Bomani was saying, going through those rituals to not kind of, but to heal yourself and to bring your spirit back to your body. So that was I really enjoyed this chapter. It was really good.
Right. And I think that we all, have experienced or have seen or witnessed people wanting to go home. When my grandmother was going through her illness with diabetes and so on and so forth, I'm still
Why are you laughing?
because the dog is making funny
so
noises. Anyway, I'm gonna go get the dog in a second. But when my grandmother was going through her bout of diabetes, so on and so forth, um, and they tried to send her to the hospice and they tried to keep her in a hospital. And her only request was, no, I want to go home. If I transition, I want to transition around family. I don't want to transition in a cold hospice, with the night nurse, the one night nurse walking around, so on and so forth. She wanted to go home. Right. Same thing with my mom, when she was sick and she was going through her bout of cancer, she wanted to come back home. She wanted to come back to the South, right? Uh, she
My
came
grandmother,
home.
the
She
same
she
thing,
she came home, and she ended up coming back to California where her children and stuff were because I guess that's what really was home, right? So she came back and she was able to transition with family, around family, in love versus in some cold hospice or so on and so forth.
Strangers and just
With strangers. Your grandmother, she was called home.
Yes, and she wasn't. Well, who knows? She probably knew something was going on with her, even though she was the healthiest person in the family. But she was 84. But still, California that's where her husband is buried. That's where all of our family is. We're the only ones. My brother-in-law just came recently, but we're the only ones here in the South. Everybody else is still in California. So that's where she said she wanted to go, and I'm glad we were able to send her there before she transitioned. And I'm at peace to know that she was where she wanted to be at when she did get called to the ancestors. Yes.
Awesome. No doubt. We even call it, being called home, right? So, we'd be like, oh, Miss Shirley was called home today. That's something in our community that we express, and one thing I wanted to talk about, and we kind of talked about this previously, is that, the community rituals that we already do, right? So what are some of the community rituals that we already do? And we also have given those rituals that we do a sense of power, right? So again, when we the birthday song, when we sing happy birthday to somebody, to a child, to an adult, that adult lights up. You can go watch videos of people singing happy birthday to people in old folks homes, and they just brighten up. Their eyes brighten up all the way down to our smallest of children, because that's the energy associated with it.
Right.
And it's ritual. That's something that we do.
Even sports, especially sports. Not only is there ritual within the fan base, there's ritual within the athletes that they do rituals before they even get on the field or whatever they're about to do, So it's the whole, we do it. We
Yeah.
just may not know, the reasoning behind it or the meaning behind it or why, but
We do it
we are
because
ritual. Yeah.
it gives because it has an energy associated with it, or it gives us the energy. So again, like Z said, when you see LeBron James, to this day, he still goes and gets the, I believe it's like baby powder or something, the powder that keeps their hands dry while they're playing basketball, and he gets it, he throws it up, and he does his pregame ritual. And so many other
Lucky
of
socks and
those,
lucky
you know,
underwear and all that kind of stuff. So
and
yeah.
and if they don't do those rituals, the energy is off.
Right.
Point blank.
Y'all know, because Thanksgiving coming up, don't play. If
Right.
some of y'all don't cook that stuff, your big mama gonna come get you. So you understand.
Right.
You understand.
And even within those celebrations, they have become, again, as we become more conscious individuals, we no longer, uh, you know, uh, celebrate, right, holidays, right? But it's still ritualistic that we uh, gather with family, right? So
Yeah.
it's still ritualistic that we come and we go into grandmama's house or whoever's house, and we're going to cook some of the same things that were cooked before, even though it's not in the spirit of Thanksgiving or slaughtering millions of Native Americans, or in the spirit of the new frontier, all the things, pilgrims and Indians, right? So again, we still gather because it's ritualistic within our community. We still come together during those times and do what we do as Black people, right? So you're gonna catch the spade games. You're gonna catch the uncles, the typical uncles and aunties and grandmas, and some of the cousins, some of the typical dishes, right? And y'all gonna do things that y'all do every year, right? You got the cousins who gonna go off and smoke. You know what I'm saying? You got the uncles over there talking mess around the fire, watching the football game, so on, watching ritualistically watching the same teams play on Thanksgiving.
The children playing.
The children at the children's table.
Right.
Going to the children's table. That's like a ritualistic thing that we do in our community, and it feels good, right? Even the ceremony of the homegoing ceremonies that we do within our communities, right? Just how Black folks send their families home. We make sure we got a nice casket. We make sure that we get a people to speak and sing at the funeral. We make sure that we practice this ritual, and this ritual that we do, the funeral ritual, is like a closure ritual, right? Because without this funeral, there's no. Hey Angie.
Hi Angie.
Without this.
Oh God. Keep going. I'll be right.
But without funerals, or without this sense of funeral, we don't have closure. So can you imagine your loved one passing away and no one knowing about it, and they just go and go to the incinerator, no ceremony surrounding it, no closure. You don't get a sense of closure. That's why people in our society, they would search for lost or missing persons for years, even after the case has been closed lawfully, right? According to law, even after the case has been closed, you'll have family members who search for their missing family members for years, because they haven't had to have that sense of closure. And even though they know they may be searching for a dead person, right? They still want to be able to find that body so they can have their ritual, so they can have that sense of closure. And as we get more into religions, right? Religions require a sense of ritual surrounding funerals, and some examples of that are, in Islam or with the Muslim community, they're to be buried within a certain time of their death. They're to be buried with a certain garb. so on and so forth. You know, a lot of religions will bury other people with, have rituals where they bury people with coins, right? So on and so forth. You know, we can go on and on about that. But we in our black community, we have rituals that we do, right? And they have power. So if we intentionally, so what we're talking about here in this group, with what we're reading is when we intentionally practice these things, right? Or we intentionally bring ritual into our daily being, right? Into our yearly being, right? It has the power to connect communities. It has a power to connect us, and it has the power to spiritually get us motivated, right? Because it's a spiritual thing. We're trying to connect the spirit. We're trying to feel good. We're trying to be all right. We're trying to be whole. We're trying to be balanced. And with ritual, we can start to achieve this, especially as a community, right? Especially if we're doing communal ritual, right? Especially if we're doing family ritual. You know, I shared a video in our group, the Mad Activists, I mean, excuse me, the Mad Liberation Education group. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I encourage you to go join that group and, be a part. Uh, but I shared a video, a TED talk, and the person that was doing the video traveled to different communities observing their rituals. And he observed people walking on fire. He observed the people are in trances, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of different things that he observed, right? And him and his team wanted to see what physical or what changes within those people had occurred, right? So, they set up some different tests to see, how people reacted or how people felt after they completed these rituals, these communal rituals. And some of the conclusions that came from the tests were that, the community and the individuals were in higher spirit after the rituals, right? The communities and the individuals uh, are the community and the individuals of the community were more likely to give. They were more likely to do something nice for somebody else after these rituals, right? So again, if could you imagine us doing communal rituals? Could you imagine us doing family rituals and the energy that we can bring into our households, the energy that we can bring into our communities? Because we're doing this together. We're intentionally drawing this energy in and being able to use it for our good. Y'all back?
Yes. All right, let's try this again. It smells better.
All right. So again, we just talking about I talked about the video I shared when the dude went to the different spaces and
yes.
they were able to test or gauge a little bit how ritual affects the community, right?
Yes, that was a very good. I enjoyed that. It was on point. I felt like it was explained very well. He got in depth. And like I said, I'm glad he just didn't mess with African spirituality.
Yeah.
But everything else was for real. It's on point because I do know my friends, different people from all of these different types of cultures. So he was on point with what he was saying and getting to the feeling of why people do rituals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the physical connectivity that ritual has on us, right? Or the outcome that ritual has, or the effect that ritual can have on the community. Again, if we're every year, if we're having a festival, a harvest festival, right? And each year we're recognizing this, we're coming out. That boosts the community spirit. That boosts us. We have something to look forward to. We have something that's going to connect us. We have more things, more reasons to be communal, right? And again, if we, and we can see it with the American holidays now, if we miss grandma's cooking on Thanksgiving, we don't feel right.
Right.
So again, imagine using ritual, imagine having community rituals to be able to motivate us, right? One of the examples that I can give where there was a communal ritual or a communal ceremony was the Boys Came In ceremony.
Right.
When we talk about the liberation of Haiti, right? You know, led by Fatima and Duddy Bookman, right? They had a whole ceremony and some ritual involved that involved multi cultures, multiple languages, multiple nations were represented at that ceremony. And that ceremony was able to connect them and have them fight with each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? Was able to connect them and have them start this rebellion against one of the against multiple oppressing nations, right? So again, that's the power of some ceremony. That's the
Right.
power of ritual. So imagine if we was tapping into that today,
Right.
right?
Which
Imagine
we
if,
did. We were able to with Mama C when she came. You know, we did the ring shout, and it was dope. Like I said, the ancestors were definitely in the building. Um, Everybody, like I said, all the generations were represented there. The elders, the children, the middle aged, and the unborn. It was awesome. So this is definitely something, like I said, we do anyway. We just now we need to know the meaning behind it and the reasoning behind it, and it'll work even better, because I know it's been working for us this whole time, but it's gonna work even better when we do it with intention.
that's the thing, giving it energy with intention, doing what we do with intention and making sure that we are uh, doing right by our ancestors or doing right by the people who laid the foundation that came before us. And we can make sure that we're tapping in with that through ritual. We can
Right.
make sure that we're feeding our spirits, feeding the spirits through ritual, right? So that's what we want to do. That's what we're gonna, that's what we hope to plan. Excuse, hope to plan. That's what we plan to get out of, reading this book and just opening our minds up to the power of ritual, how it can heal our communities, right? How it can make our sisters and little brothers out here in the community feel whole, how it can make them feel more a part of something. When we read post traumatic slave syndrome, one of the things that we read that was a detriment to our community was that a lot of brothers and sisters have no self worth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And they have no self worth because they play, excuse me, they figure they play no important part in the community,
Right.
right? If we had these communal ritual, excuse me, communal rituals implies
That's a
that
tongue twister.
everybody plays their part,
Yes.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
this would allow people to feel a part of the whole, right? And they
Right.
would step different, they would walk different because they know that they have a pivotal role to play within our
They
community.
feel needed. They like, no, I cannot miss this meeting for any purpose because I know that my presence is needed there for this certain thing, whatever it is. But I know if I'm not there, it's gonna be off, and all of that is gonna be on me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that leads, like um Patrice was saying, Malidoma, brother Malidoma, that we do communal rituals for good things, like a good harvest. We do a ritual for a good harvest. We offer our harvest to the gods, and then we have harvest with each other where we break bread. We do that so we won't have to have another ritual that's based off of pain because somebody didn't die or somebody got sick because we didn't do our communal rituals or give our
Right.
thanks and offerings like we should have. So, like he said, it's more so about appreciation and giving honor to the spirits that help us get through things that humans cannot handle on their own versus feeding ego. Once you do that, like ritual, and it's still ritual, but it goes extremely wrong,
Yeah.
and then you have to do all types of other things to undo
To
that.
undo that
And
to
it
fix.
doesn't only affect you, it affects the community, it affects your family. So it's just it's a lot of levels to it, but the main thing is it's unity based.
Mhm.
It's Ubuntu. I am because we are. So no matter what, um, like he said, we have individual rituals we do, we have familial rituals we do with our family, and then we have the communal rituals we do. And all three of those exist because all three of those exist. They don't exist alone, and they cannot. I don't care how many individual rituals you do, it ain't never going to be as strong as if the family did it and the community did it together. And it probably won't work just with me doing it alone. We have to all be in sync with each other. So that was a great point that he made, and it makes total sense.
I say. So you see in the next part, so and he talked about again him being called home his personal experience with having to experience some ritual that involves sacrifice,
Right
right?
after his graveyard
You know,
situation,
so
his cemetery
again,
situation.
and I love the way he writes and tells the story,
Right, like
like
I
Z
said, I was
said,
laughing. It
his,
was funny.
so again, his sacrifice and again, his he at the beginning, I believe it was the beginning of this section, but he acts like, why do we do ritual?
Mhm.
You know,
He asked his grandfather.
he asked his grandfather, why do we do ritual? And his grandfather was basically like, why do we do anything?
Why do you use a bathroom?
Why do you use the bathroom? And his reply was because we have to. It's just something we have to do, and that's true to this day. It's something that we have to do. It's something that we should do with intention and love it and build upon it and build us some shrines and some altars and give us some offerings to the ancestors, to our deities, to our energies, right? Throw positive affirmations and positive words out there to the cosmos and hope that it's reciprocated that back down to us, right? So again, it's so many things that we can do, so many routes that we can take. Our ancestors, that uh, were scattered throughout the diaspora, were able to bring culture, bring some of the rituals to the spaces they were in, and create new rituals that represented the spirit, right? So they were able to bring deities from Yoruba, right? They were able to bring stories from Congo. They were able to be able to bring it over when it was illegal for them to practice it, but still be able to practice it in, I guess you say, disguise. We talk about candomblé and capoeira, right?
And not only that, they were able to bring the original, you know, um, African spirituality over here, but also they created new because we did have to hide it. So, in Africa, we didn't have to use saints, Catholic saints to do our, our Ifa, whatever. But once we came over here to this new land, so to speak, we did have to cover it up and use these Catholic saints and things like that to go with our orishas and stuff. So we did create, new things while staying foundation based, I'll say.
Yeah, so again, like, we created new rituals, we created new ritual systems. And again, even with capoeira, if you watch it, it's a lot of things that's done is ritualistic. The music that's played, the movements, it's ritual. The days that they played capoeira on, right? Sundays, what I'm saying, after church, and this was something that thrived in the diaspora. And like Z said, it was rooted in African spirituality. It was rooted in Yoruba, Ifa, Fan, so on and so forth. Uh, and same thing with I don't want to in Santeria, right? And in Cuba, same thing with. So again, we were able to same thing with over here, right? A lot of things that we do as it relates to our spirituality is ritual, and it comes and it's based in where we come from, right? It's based in African spirituality. It's based in our original culture, right? And what I'm talking about is, you see those, excuse me, you see those brothers and sisters in church, they get the spirit, right? And they are possessed and they go into a trance. And those things, the same episodes you see in that church, you can see back home on the continent. You can see that same episode throughout the diaspora. You can see that with voodoo, hoodoo. You can see it with in Cuba, right? You can see the trance that our people get into when those drums are played, right?
And I myself at one point, westernized mine at that time, be like, oh, they faking it. You know what I'm saying? Be in that church and be like, oh, there's no way they, are feeling the Holy Ghost, so to speak. But it's for real.
Yeah,
We already. I mean, we do have our, fabrications there. Yeah. But as Black folks, we know certain vibrations and things. That's what they know. That's how they were able to get us to come into that particular religion for real. But just these vibrations and sounds and tones and the way we speak and things like that, it does something to your DNA that we can't fight it because that's how we communicate. It's a communicating line for us, a life force, so to speak.
Yeah, most definitely. I do think the church is the show, and I do think that people
We
have
so silly.
manipulated and but I've actually been to revivals
Mhm.
and it's real. I've been there and seen, the music being played for an hour and people go, I done felt it a little bit and wanted to get up and do some stuff, but suppressed
Mhm.
it. Right. So again, we
Like when
know
Kurt Franklin Stomp came out.
stomp, we all do. We all got our favorite
Right.
church hymn or church song that we like.
Right.
And again, so a lot of that comes from and was pulled from our culture, pulled from uh uh our original religions and spirituality
Mhm.
pre our dispersion throughout the diaspora.
Right.
And pre that we shared culture, so before we were stolen in our land and dispossessed around the diaspora, we were able, they see similarities within different indigenous cultures in different spaces with African culture,
Mhm.
right? How we dance, the stories that are
Right.
told, they find Inca stories and Mayan stories that are similar to African
How
stories,
we dress,
and
our
it shows the
clothes.
link
Yeah.
that we have shared our spirituality, shared our traditions throughout the world. Now our culture is copied
Pasted.
and copied, pasted, and commodified. Anything that
Right.
we do is going to
Sold
be
back to us.
commodified and sold back to us,
Yeah.
right? Like Z said, now we're talking about, we're able to talk about comedic yoga now, and it's being sold back to us by dominant society. We're able to
Right.
talk about holistic healing
Yeah.
and herbs and so on and so forth. And as soon as we talk about
Veganism.
this, it's sold back to us by dominant society. And that the same goes for our spirituality, the same goes for our rituals. They're gonna make sure they provide candles, right? They know that we're doing our rituals. They're gonna make sure that they pushing candles on us. They're gonna make sure that they pushing, different spiritual figurines on us because
Right.
they
The
know that
sage and
that
all of
we're
that
attracted
stuff.
to that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we have to be aware of that. Like Malidoma said, that's still fueling the machine, right?
Right.
That's still going to leave us empty if we just buying sage from the most capitalistic person that just buying it with no intentions, or buying it without even recognizing where this might have came from.
Right.
Because people are culture vultures. They steal, and unfortunately, we don't have many outlets where we can buy our spiritual things from our folks. So again, that's something that damn dog.
So usually it's the children that want to talk and act. It is okay. I'm with you now. It's the dog. She tripping. She know we on camera and got something. Oh my goodness. But in
Uh,
any event, yes, that is. I definitely agree with everything you just said. Again, our rituals are, we do them every day. Again, I know all of you who are watching or tuning in, you have your thing you do every rising or every evening, every night with your family, with yourself, with your crew. Up, doorbell. Yeah, y'all, please excuse the. Oh my goodness, I'll be right back.
Nah, this real life though. I just want to share this part with you. Peace, bye. See you later. What's up, brother? So again, the second part of this is our role in ritual, right? And he talks about again his experience having to come back home, right, and fulfilling the need, right. He talks about how when we feed the spirit, right, there's spiritual outcomes, right. So again, in the role of ritual, he talks about how that's connecting us to the spirit. When we're offering and creating shrines and doing so on and so forth, it's connecting us to a certain spirit, and it's for us to get some spiritual food back. And of course, this crosses over into the physical because we feel good, the energy's right. You got, making positive connections, so on and so forth. But essentially, with ritual, we're trying to feed the spirit to get spiritual results, right?
Right.
To get spiritual results. So that's our role in
Right.
ritual.
As
Uh,
humans, like he said, we have Definitely, we're just like he said. I don't want to sound so harsh, but we know what he means. That we're a tool, um, for ritual. You know what I'm saying? To work through, like he said, the gods, the orishas, whoever you're praising to, they're not going to do the work just because it needs to be done. They need to be fed as well, like spiritually fed and recognized for them to be able to help us with these things, like they said that humans can't handle. Um, but we have to feed them as well because again they're not just going to come down and say, oh, we see you going through this, we're going to come down and help you with that, even though you've given us no offerings, you haven't even said our name and who knows how long.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, so we have to be in unison with each other and
Right.
complementary to each other. Like you
Right.
said, the ritual part is the supernatural that we're asking to come and intervene, and the ceremony part is the physical
Yeah.
space that we're doing it
Yeah.
in, the
There's
candles, the
yeah, there's a ritual
yes,
within the ceremony.
right,
And,
right.
and maybe that's what we need. I was just sitting there thinking the word ceremony. That's that is what we need in our community. We need more ceremony, right?
Communal ceremony,
Communal
yes.
ceremony. And I love
Mm-hmm.
what's going on at Spirit House because they make sure each year they are practicing and doing ceremony, creating ritual. And I think that's something that we all need to look into, even us as a family. Excuse me, just creating a space for ceremony,
Right.
ceremony to honor, ceremonies to be thankful. And again, excuse me, we kind of have this in our society. We kind of have, like I said, we was talking about Thanksgiving and Christmas, so on and so forth. Even though that's so machine related, we can't really get the spiritual. We do feel good, but we can't get the whole spiritual effect of it, uh, because it's not us. It's not rooted in us. But we can begin to take those things
Find our
back,
way, I guess, with that.
find our way,
Mm-hmm.
demand that we as community start to practice ceremony with intention, and bring back the, honoring. I love what, I don't want to say the name wrong, but Dias de los
Dia
Muertos.
de los Muertos,
Dias de los
yes.
Muertos. I love that ceremonial aspect of it where they're
Mm-hmm.
honoring their
And
ancestors,
the altars
where they're
and the
feeding
yes,
their ancestors each year. They have ceremonies with ritual to feed those spirits so they
right.
won't be forgotten about, so those energies can be present with them throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think that's important for us to understand that spirit kind of, we not kind of have something in common, but we do. It's just that they're in a different realm, we're in a different. But just think about us. If we don't feed ourselves, what's gonna happen to us?
We're gonna die.
And
Amen.
people never talk about us, never talk about any of our works or deeds or anything we ever did. Like we die. There's something very profound that he said, especially being a African from the continent and coming to America, is that we need to see, or he doesn't understand why it's so hard for us to see why the soul is dying before the person actually physically dies. It's like we see people going through mental health issues and things like that, but we just refuse to recognize it. And like he said, people take their own life at the extreme. They take their own life because they don't have community to do these rituals to get their self well or to bring spirit back to the body, the mind. So that's what we need to tap back into. It takes all of us to heal each other and to be abundant and prosperous and all of those things as well. And we don't always have to do rituals in pain, like you said. It doesn't always have to be about bad things happening, accidents, deaths like that. Me and Bomani talk about that a lot. Like we want to have a event where it's like, yes, black love, not stop domestic violence, stop
Right.
the violence, stop police brutality. Like let's have a block party type thing versus always having to come together over something so tragic. Um, that's another thing for us to recognize and take away from this reading. I think especially let's stop like trauma bonding. I'm gonna say even. Let's not trauma bond with rituals. Let's do rituals in good spirits, so we
Yeah.
won't have to do it in pain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the last part we can kind of talk about is that he talks about how every aspect of our life involves spirit, right? Every aspect, involves energy, involves how we feel, how we relate to one another. So if we intentionally put some ritual there, if we are intentionally feeding the spirit in those spaces, because everything is spiritual. You know, we have a spiritual aspect or a non-seen aspect to everything, right? We think in our head all day. We don't see, we don't hear it. It's not physical out here, but it's still in our head. And again, it's there. The spiritual aspect is there. So
Right.
let's feed it. Let's feed it. Let's feed it. Let's feed it. Let's do what we can to make sure that our spirits are well.
Right.
And it will transmute into the physical. You know, it will open up some roads, right? You will be able to see clearly, you know, friends and foes and opportunities as they come,
Your
because
purpose.
you are feeding the spirit. So though that money will come, you know,
Yeah, the spirit gonna feed
that
you back.
that new whatever that you're manifesting will come because you have fed the spirit. You know, you are deserving, you are whole, right? We're trying to become that's this whole revolutionary tip me and Z on is about our folks becoming whole, right? And we know that we can't become whole under this system of oppression that I'm not gonna go revolutionary,
Yeah.
y'all, but
Yes,
we
we
know that
are.
we can't become whole under this system of
Right.
oppression that we under, right?
But as we know, our foundation is communal. We just talked about that. We are broken pieces, which is cool. But like I said, all of us broken pieces is like a puzzle can come together and we make a big picture. All the broken pieces fit somewhere, and we all make a big picture together as a community. So it's always rooted back to that. Like I said, we can't. I don't care how many individual things we do by ourselves. That's just gonna be where it stays at too, in our little lane. That's where it's gonna stay. It's not gonna go to the children. It ain't gonna go to the community. No, nobody else is gonna know about it. No way. You know what I'm saying? And spirits don't want you just working for yourself. Ancestors just don't want you doing altars just to please yourself or to do things for you. So we have to be intentional about when we are aligned with the universe that it can hear you. It does hear you, and you have to be careful and mindful about what you put out there. So don't ask for abundance and then not ask for principle to come with that. You know what I'm saying? Because you can get a whole lot of abundance, but a whole lot of problems could come with that too because you didn't ask for it in a specific, particular way. That needs to be said. So yes, be mindful, people. That's what I also tell you to take away from this. Anytime you do ritual.
Shay, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe. Again, if y'all watching
Tell a
this on
friend.
YouTube, y'all join our Facebook group, tap in. We definitely gonna continue to read books, different books.
Oh, what's the next
We
chapter?
trying to heal, we trying to get free.
Okay. And I guess we will post on the page. I believe it should be the structure. No. It has to be this one, ritual and community. Yep. Actually, so the next section we're going to be reading is ritual and community. Again, I just every time I read the reading, did you end it? Oh, my bad. Every time I read the reading, we learn something new and get deeper and deeper. So, yes, please, Ritual and Community, we're posted in a group. Y'all have a good week. Thank you for tuning in. Peace, power. Ashe.